I will be summing up some key points from the concept and design development of Wovenhenge, a project that aims at reconnecting people to nature, proposing 8 towers scattered across Oxford, which celebrate each of the 8 stages in the pagan wheel of the year. This project focuses on the Yule Tower, which houses a place for the pagan celebration of the winter solstice. As a starting point, I investigated randomly allocated topics of research. The first was a man-made material, steel, and the second was a living being, part of the natural world, the stag. I investigated these topics as a way of identifying elements and mechanisms from both that would inform the architecture's shape and behavior, thus helping me define the brief and scope of this project. I started by looking at steel.
You wait until you're in the mood, and then when you find a piece of steel, you might go like this with it, and roll it about, and so on, and you gradually get the grip of an idea.
I was interested in the potential softness of an incredibly tough material. I photographed a tea strainer made entirely out of stainless steel and was particularly interested in the soft mesh component, as I also intended to model this material. I investigated projects that also used a mesh-based construction, like Jana Eckelman's structures.
Monumental softness moving in the wind. It reminds us that the wind is already there. It's as if the wind is the choreographer.
Eckelman uses fishing net techniques to achieve the softness of her structures, which make patterns as they blow in the wind. So I then looked at a wide array of weaving techniques which would inform my concept model making. I then made a model out of stainless steel wire. It also created very interesting light effects, so at this point I knew both weaving and light would be 2 key aspects for consideration in this project. Alongside this, I was investigating the stag, particularly their antlers. In order to narrow the scope of research, I decided to focus on the stag's antlers. Every year, they start growing around spring and eventually get cast around winter, when it is no longer necessary for the animal to upkeep their maintenance. So I decided I wanted to grow my architecture rather than building it, so that this man-made intervention would, like the antlers, grow through a natural process as part of the natural world. So then I looked at examples of architecture that was grown, starting with the living bridges in India.
In the forested slopes of southern Meghalaya, the people are keeping alive a unique and centuries-old engineering tradition to commute across some of the most rugged terrains in the world.
The bridges are woven by the community, a slow process that passes on through the generations. This connection between humans and nature and future generations seems to have been progressively lost in Western societies, as developing urban landscapes seem to strengthen the divide between our species and the natural world we inhabit. Therefore, I chose to develop an architecture that, like the living bridges, is alive, slow-growing and hand-woven. New aerial roots continue to be woven into mature roots over the years, eventually creating structures that can withstand environments like intense rains and flooding. In order to get a feel of a living structure environment, I looked into different basket weaving techniques. Then, using fallen branches of different willow trees around Oxford, I created a woven model made entirely out of this natural material. The site is located at Ifley Meadows, in an opening surrounded by trees. One of the most prevalent species on site is the poplar tree. As the meadow floods each year, it provides ideal characteristics for this species to thrive. I then became interested in building with this tree, as it would naturally withstand flooding and thrive within its context. To create a tree structure, I needed to consider joining separate trees in a way that would provide structural stability. I looked at making use of inosculation, a naturally occurring process where different trees merge together to form a single organism. German architect Ferdinand Ludwig has developed a method of growing tree structures that makes use of this process.
One technique we have is the inosculation, the joining of trees. So this was two, one here, and when we connect them, they merge to one. In the second year of merging, they create one growth ring, and then it is one body of wood, and it is one organism. So in the beginning you have two, and we do this with hundreds. In this case we use little screws. It stays in the tree, it does not really harm it, and it simply presses together the two parts, and then they merge the bark and then the wood, and then is one, and then they exchange everything.
Here you can see an older element where the trunks have already grown together actually. Actually here we can't see the screws anymore, they are overgrown. Formerly those were 4 young plane trees, 1, 2, 3, 4, and they have been grown together here.
How long did that take?
3-4 years.
Using this method, I designed a temporary structure that will aid the growth of separate poplar trees as they are woven into a single hyperliving organism, which will become the primary structure of the building after 10 to 15 years. Ground screws will serve as temporary foundations until the roots are sufficiently developed to take the full structural load. Temporary planters will also be removed at that time. Due to inosculation, the branches can be cut off and the tree will remain alive as they are connected into a single organism. Building with trees also means the structure will be naturally capable of controlling its temperature, as leaves provide shade and reduce humidity in the summer, while bare branches allow light in during the winter, much like the stag casts its antlers in winter when it no longer serves it. The growth of the antlers is actually connected with the seasons, aligning with the solstices and equinoxes. This first introduced the idea of building a pagan building, something like Stonehenge, that would be designed around the seasons. I explored structures like Newgrange in Ireland, where a single opening fully lights an underground chamber on the sunrise of the winter solstice. Similarly to this, I designed a room at the top of my structure to be illuminated by the sun on the winter solstice, although I focused on the sunset instead, as the pagan community would celebrate through the evening. At this point, the 15-year-old poplar tree structure will be the only primary structure of the building, and the top level will be cladded with soft and hairy panels, apart from a single opening which I designed to be aligned with the winter solstice sun at sunset. People will go up a ramp secured in between 2 rows of trees and enter the top room, the Yule room, where they will sit around a reflective fireplace positioned in line with the sun path, which will reflect the light into the room. Apart from the opening, the upper level will be fully cladded with short hair and long hair panels. The short hair will be made of thatch, woven by local thatchers, and then secured in between the 3 openings by a cork gasket. The long hair cladding takes precedent from Heatherwick Studios' Seed Cathedral. It will be made out of fiberglass rods that will transport the golden hour light inside the room. As they overhang by a few meters on the outside, they will also lightly blow in the wind, blending in with the surrounding trees. And creating a building that is truly rooted in pagan values and interwoven with its community and surroundings.